What's up, everybody? Welcome to podcast. Now, I'm Alex. I'm once again joined by Christy, and we're here to talk about everything wrong with the battle for Winterfell in Game of Thrones Season 8, Episode 3. Now, we did the review, we did a spoiler review, and we talked a lot about our feelings of that episode, and in my opinion, why I think there was just a lot of things wrong with the episode in large, and we got a lot of negativity, a lot of people that didn't agree with us, so I wanted to make this video where I kind of just, and Christy, we kind of just talk about it. We just have a discussion. It's just our opinions. We are not bashing the show in large, I should say, but we do want to have an open discussion of why I feel like there was just a lot of things wrong with that episode. And one of the biggest things, in my opinion, is that it didn't stay true to Game of Thrones. Okay, when you think of Game of Thrones, one of the main things I think of is the safety of characters and how they're not ever safe. How you can always count on them being expendable at any given moment, right? That any character could die at any given moment. When we get to this episode, this is like the pinnacle of what Game of Thrones should be, where there's going to be a massive battle and we're expecting a lot of people to die. And what do we get? We didn't get a lot of death whatsoever. Instead, we got to what I called in the review a lot of cartoony behavior, where characters like Brienne, where characters like Jaime, where characters really like anybody in the show that were in the front lines that survived, right? Grey Worm, Sam, they were getting massacred by armies of whites, armies jumping on top of them. They were literally on top of bodies, like a tower of bodies of whites, and they're just fending them off like it's nobody's business, not getting stabbed, not getting bit. And it was just a whole lot of like, are you serious? Eventually, in my mind, like I said in the review, I felt like these characters were just safe. And I don't think in an episode like this, or even a show like Game of Thrones, I should ever think these characters are safe. But for some reason, I did in the biggest episode of all. In the very beginning, Brienne gets tackled by like 6 of them, and she just kind of slithers out of it and makes it out okay. And this happens time and time and time again. And eventually, it's just like, okay, why did Jorah then die? And because he got stabbed like 6-7 times, but you have Sam over there crying on a body of whites as they're like trying to bite his flesh off, and none of them like stabbed him in like the side. You know, he's a bigger guy, right? How could he not have gotten stabbed? So things like that, the cartoony nature that these characters survived all of that, just really, really got to me. We got Jon. I know a lot of people had a big problem with what we talked about with Jon. He's a fantastic character. He's one of my favorite characters in the show. He did absolutely nothing in this episode, and it's just this episode. We're talking about just this episode. He was on his dragon 5 feet from the trenches that need to be lit on fire, and he didn't do a single thing. He was watching it happen. Why didn't he do anything? He was just, I feel, a hugely wasted character, where they used him to kind of have some really nice shots on the dragon. They used him in that one kind of continuous scene that spun around with him when he was going through and seeing everybody else get attacked. I like that scene. I like the cinematography of that scene, but as a scene in general of what he actually did, he did next to nothing. The battle plan. Let's go over the battle plan. There was no battle plan. This was one of the most, their tactics and how they were expecting to fend off these whites were laughable. They shot the catapults when the Dothraki went at them, and then they stopped. They never did it again, even as they were crossing that wide open area. Why didn't they shoot the catapults? Why were the Dothraki completely expendable? Is it because there was too much CG in there? Yeah, I think that's honestly the reason. But why did they send them out? Why couldn't they have put them on the side of the castle? And we saw that in a comment. Why was there no like ambush plan from them? Why did the archers choose when to shoot? And when I'm saying that, why did they choose at the very end of it to shoot? There was just a lot of things where it's like, the battle happened, and I think a lot of people, it's okay to like this episode. I'm not saying you can't like this episode, but I think if you think about this episode, like if you think about it analytically, or you think about anything about this episode, I think you find that there were so many problems with the battle. There was just a lot of it wasted. There was a lot of it that made no sense. There was a lot of expendable things that didn't need to happen. And just a lot of it like didn't work. Yes, there was action. Yes, things happened on screen. But if that makes it the best episode of TV ever, that's not good enough. And to me, that's not living up to what Game of Thrones was so good at. The story, the characters, the smart action, the not doing action just to do action. Were there some amazing scenes? Yeah. Arya, she had some amazing scenes. Oh, last thing I want to talk about, the Night King. what a wimp of a character. And I thought that this was going to be one of the more talked about things when this episode came out. The way he died, again, I have no problem with Arya being the one to do it. That was fine. How she got by all of his, number 2 and number 3 people, I have no idea how she jumped over all of them. But the fact that the Night King is this sinister guy, the guy who almost just destroyed literally everything without even really trying, right? And then he gets stabbed like that, and he goes out like that. Before he gets to do anything of like cataclysmic magnitude, I think was a little bit of a waste of a character. I really think that the way he went out, it was like he didn't really do much either. He rode a dragon. He tried to kill Daenerys and her dragon. But overall, I feel like just a lot of waste. I feel like a lot of wasted opportunity. They're needed. And in my opinion, again, the biggest thing that I have a problem with was the lack of character deaths and the cartoonishness that these characters are standing on literally a body or a tower of like 500 whites and they're not dying. Meanwhile, the other people, they just kind of send to their death, and Jorah gets killed and stabbed multiple times, but there's Brienne getting mauled by like 15,000 whites and she's completely fine. It's okay if it's another show, like if it's The Walking Dead. I've come to kind of expect that from that show. But a show like Game of Thrones, when those characters are put in that situation, I expect them to die, because that's kind of what the show has always done, and that's what I think it failed at doing in that episode.
I agree with everything you said. For me, it was like we spent 8 seasons gearing up for this Night King battle. I mean, we're told constantly the Night King is literally the most terrifying character throughout the whole time. He's got this massive army. His White Walkers alone were fierce warriors. I mean, there was that scene where Jon was fighting one while trying to save the wildlings. But then, I mean, that one alone almost killed Jon and took down Ed and, tons of others. And Ethen at that. But then the White Walkers did nothing. They just kind of rolled in the back of the Night King like, yeah, we're the posse. We're just going to follow this guy around and not try to kill anybody. So I think that was like a disappointment, because they kind of wasted the White Walkers. They just kind of forgot they existed, forgot they could fight, I guess. I don't know. They just left them there. And on top of that, I mean, you were, led to believe that they were just terrifying. We've seen them. Everyone's terrified. Even the night before the big battle, everyone's sitting around the fire, just basically crying because they all assumed they're going to die. But then the Night King does show up, and it's like, all right, 5 seconds, you're dead, the end. That's it. And I feel like it was just very wasted. I mean, Walder Frey had a higher kill count than the Night King this episode, I feel like, The Red Wedding was 10,000 times worse than this. Don't get me wrong, I'm glad all the characters survived, but that's not how it should have been. I love all the characters, every single one of them. Jon, all of them, they're all my favorites. Daenerys has always been my favorite since day one. But I really just feel like there could have been a lot of emotional moments, and they really didn't put any in that moment. We were spending the entire last episode kind of saying goodbye to everyone, and we had Pod's song, and it showed everyone in slow motion with Missandei and Grey Worm, and even they survived. So it's kind of it felt like a real slap in the face, honestly. It was kind of just nothing really happened. The battle happened, tons of people died, but the main characters still lived. And if they're just living to die fighting against Cersei, I feel like that's a big waste, because, yes, Game of Thrones has been gearing up for this big fight of the Iron Throne all along, but that's not what the North really cared about. The North cared about the North, and Jon's whole thing was protecting the North. And now they did it, but they did it so easily that it just, they didn't even need help. It would have been better, I think, if they maybe had to fall back, and then the South could see what happened. But now, honestly, the South is going to look at the North and laugh, because they're going to think, well, you killed them so easily, but you guys acted like it was such a threat. And the South never saw any of it, besides the one time Jon brought a white to them and was like, no, see, they exist, but they killed them all, so no big deal. I think a lot of it could have been done differently, but the episode itself I really liked. I really loved all the action, and I loved, a lot of the scenes. But one thing, too, that I had to say, did anyone else feel sort of embarrassed when Melisandre couldn't light the fire? Because I did. She slowly walked out epically, and then she put her hands on the trench and was like saying the words, and then it was a really long time we had to wait for them to light up. And I feel like Davos was probably standing back there thinking, come on, you're embarrassing me, just light it already. you know? So that was just a moment that seemed like it was epic, but then they were like, yeah, let's make this more dramatic and draw it out for no reason at all. So there was a lot of those moments. And Arya killing the Night King, I'm not mad it was her. It was foreshadowed, long ago. She was supposed to be the one. Even Bran told her no one can kill the Night King and no one is Arya. I'm not mad that she did it. I'm mad at how I'm not even mad. I'm just disappointed how it happened. I mean, he was surrounded by whites and White Walkers, and they were not near him either. It was a big circle, because, Theon had to run towards the Night King. So his circle was a decent amount of distance between the Night King and Bran and then all the whites and White Walkers. And you're telling me somehow Arya just leapt out of nowhere, just flashed past all of them and then managed to, catch up to them, and the Night King didn't think to maybe have all his White Walkers or whites attack her in that moment. He just kind of stood there and assumed he could handle it, but he underestimated Arya, obviously. But I think that I kind of hoped that there had been a bigger battle. Maybe even the Hound and Jon showing up at that moment and helping her get to them. They took down the White. Jon could fight the White Walkers while the Hound was, swinging his axe around the Whites. And then Arya ran past and went up there. But instead, it was Arya just full-on superheroed past all of them, which was awesome. I love that moment when she stabbed him. I was like, yes! But it just was very anticlimactic. I feel like I was hoping for something bigger, and I didn't get that huge moment. But that's not, the show is going to keep going. Obviously there's still 3 more episodes, and I guess now it's about the battle for the Iron Throne. But I think spending 8 seasons gearing up for this huge battle against the Night King and ending it like that was just kind of a bummer.
And if you guys want to go back and watch any of the past seasons, any of the past episodes of Game of Thrones, we have a link in the description below. It's a Fandango Now affiliate link. If you click that, if you buy or rent something through that, it helps us out on the channel. But you can go back and you can watch any of the old Game of Thrones episodes. They're all there for you. You can rent, buy them. You can link your Fandango points if you get the VIP points when you go see a movie. If you guys saw Avengers Endgame, you can earn points there. And you can use them, you can redeem them on Fandango Now when you rent or buy movies or TV shows. So it's a nice little thing you can do with linking them. If you guys are interested in that, definitely check out, like I said, that code in the description box below. So let us know in the comments below, guys, what do you think? What did you actually think of the episode? What do you think of the battle for Winterfell? Did you see any problems with it, or did you love the episode? Let us know. Make sure you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel, Podcast Now. Hit the bell icon so you guys know when these videos go up. We do a new theory leading into the next episode of Game of Thrones every single week. So in a few days, we will have a theory for episode 4, and we will be reviewing episode 4 as well on the channel the night it comes out. So thank you guys so much for watching. We will see you on the next video.